Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I had a junior heart attack from the recording in progress notification. It's always so loud, but
So sorry. Yeah. Otherwise, you're doing well today?
yeah, I'm doing good. My dog is asleep. She's
Oh,
wrapped in a little ball. Say hi. She's some kind of like
hi.
hound retriever. She looks very small right now. She's like not. She's like 85 pounds, but she looks little in her little ball.
She wants to pretend to be tiny. That's how
She only
all.
likes small dogs, so yes, probably.
I would love to jump right in. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me about your new EP.
Yeah, thanks for
Um,
having me.
yeah, could we start just with like an introduction of yourself?
Hi, I'm Mae Krell. I make sad girl indie folk music, is how I like to call it. And I have a new EP coming out on the 15th called Imposter Syndrome.
I want to start just, kind of at the beginning with, you're so young and you're already this far in the music industry. So, what was your first experience with music? And when was it like it clicked that this is something you wanted to pursue?
The first show I ever went to, I was 14 or 15. And I grew up in New York, so it's kind of surprising that I never made it to a live show before then, I feel like. But I remember just being there and seeing someone play and seeing people sing along and the way that it made me feel. And I immediately was like, I want to do that. How do I do that? I didn't play any instruments. I'd never written a song. Like I was like completely like not at all into any kind of idea of making music, and I'm a pretty shy person. When I told my parents I wanted to make music, they kind of laughed, like respectfully laughed, you know. But I just had a moment when I saw it, and I was like, I need to do that. That's like the only thing I want to do. So I guess I was 14.
So, what was your next step then? I mean, you said you didn't play any instruments, you didn't have any experience, and you were just like, that is me. So, what
Yeah.
what was next?
Well, I immediately realized that I am too nervous to do that. So I looked over and was like, what's the closest other person? And that was the photographer. And I was like, well, I could do that. And so I got a cheap, not great camera on eBay and started sneaking it into small venues that had like $5 shows in like tampon boxes. And after a couple shows, I put together like a like not like a Weebly, but like like the free like online like portfolio things, and emailed a couple places, and then next thing I know, I'm like shooting 4 or 5 shows a week. And so I started in that, and eventually I kind of accidentally made it a job. Like I was making money and like touring, and was like had like another moment of kind of like clarity where I was like, it doesn't really matter if I'm good enough, but I can't do this because I'm going to be unhappy. Like I'm too close to other people's careers and I want that career. So why am I not doing it? And so then I decided to try. And I guess throughout like the kind of like last year that I was doing photography, which seriously was when I was like 17, I would say it was kind of like the last time that I was like full time doing it properly. Um, I like kind of picked up the guitar and started like singing along melodies and kind of started with that. But I got into music, into the industry itself kind of by accident. And then made like a very conscious choice to try to pivot over to making music from where I was at.
So, you mentioned that you're a little shy though, and so going into making music, like showing someone your music for the first time, how was that? Because I imagine you've seen it so much, you know what's going on, but it's
Yeah.
different when someone has to see it.
I still get kind of nervous when it comes up. I mean, I work like my like day-to-day job is like restaurants. Like when I'm not like out doing something music related, like I'm at a restaurant. And everybody in restaurants in New York City does some kind of art. And so it's always like, "Oh, what else do you do?" And I just kind of like music and I'm like, "Cool." And then it just kind of like pauses, unless you say something about like your art in like a more in-depth way. And I always get nervous about it. Like even now, when like I have stuff out that I'm like proud of and like happy with, but it's definitely been easier as time has gone on, and I have become more like connected and proud of everything I'm putting out. Um, but no, I still get nervous. Like that hasn't changed.
Oh, I understand. I mean, I do these interviews and I'm like, I don't want to watch it after. I don't want to see myself. And just
I feel that.
close the chapter. It's over afterwards. So, going into just your music process, and then, music, you show so much emotion and you tell so many stories in it and be transparent with people. So, I imagine that can have an effect on just you as a person. So, what role, if any, like, did music play in the process of figuring out yourself? And did it change at all since you first got into songwriting?
A lot of the time, especially when I started, I was writing songs to kind of figure things out. Like, I didn't know how I was feeling, or I didn't know why I was feeling a certain way. And I found that if I sat down and wrote it, eventually I could understand why. And if I didn't understand why, then I got a song. And so there was that too. Either way, I got something that was positive. It was either a song or it was an understanding of why I was feeling a certain way and a song. Um, and then as time has gone on, I still write in like intense moments of emotion, but songwriting has definitely become more like a muscle. I'm always writing small things down like in my phone notes, and then sometimes I'll just sit down and be like, I'm gonna write a song with one of these, and I just scroll through until something's like talking to me, and then I write about it. So it's definitely less of like a um, crazy intensity in the moment, waiting for inspiration and not writing otherwise thing, which it definitely was when I first started writing.
To talk about like the industry in a general sense, I mean, artists throughout history have worried about how their sexuality could influence their success in the industry. And we're seeing artists like Kaylani and Fletcher grow to be these big names. But was that ever a concern for you going into this?
I don't think I thought about it. And I think now I think about it more. I can't think of one lesbian artist who is stereotypically visibly a lesbian, who is a big artist. You might know one. I can't think of one. Fletcher, Kalani, Clara, I don't know if she's a lesbian. I know she's queer. Phoebe Bridgers, every single one of them. And the way that you present doesn't make you less or more queer, but it does affect the way that you walk through the world in a world that assumes everyone's straight, right? I can't think of anyone who like presents on the more masculine side, except maybe Mal Blum. But I think no, they're I think they're he they pronouns. I'm not sure about their like actual like background. So I really can't think of anyone. And so I think that when I realized that part of it, like when I realized that if I wasn't a lesbian that could be sexualized, I probably am going to have a way harder time gaining success, was when I started to like consciously have that as a thought. But I think before then, I like, did I know I was gay? Like, I don't really know. Like, I like, it was all kind of like a side thought that I didn't really like process. But it definitely is a more conscious thing now than it was.
I did want to talk about that, just, the stereotypical music industry of how you should look on stage and how your voice versus how you look influences things. So, going up on stage and singing your songs, how did you feel being in front of a crowd for the first time?
I mean, I still feel like I'm gonna throw up before every time I go on stage, and I've played a lot over time. So I think my dad always tells me that if you're anxious or you're nervous, it means that you care. And so he was like, I hope you never stop being nervous because then you're probably too jaded. So I try to frame it that way in my head when I'm nervous is like, well, it's because I care about how the fans or whoever's in the audience who doesn't know who I am is going to react to the music. But it's nerve wracking. I will say though that having the conscious thought of this song is now out into the world and so it is no longer exactly mine and mine alone will help. So like when I write a song and it's in my room and it's only being played to my dog, it's my song, right? Like nobody else has heard it, or in the people who have, like, they're just like friends giving ideas. But once you like go through the process of like producing a song and cutting proper vocals and mastering it and putting it out, it's like yours, but it becomes such a part of everyone else's life. Like people who listen to it, they listen to it in their car, or in their bed, or in their room, or with their friends, and it creates all these other like personalities that it's not really 100% yours anymore. And then I think knowing that while performing those songs, I can put myself into the headspace I was in when I wrote it so it feels true to the song while on stage. But I don't like walk off stage in like a terrible emotional state because I'm singing sad music, if that makes sense. That said, I did like cry on stage once on tour recently. So I guess maybe sometimes it hits a little bit too hard. But in general, in general, I can handle it pretty well.
So on your new tour, I'd love to talk about that as well, that you just went around and sang some songs, but did you sing the new ones from your new EP?
I did, yeah. I think there was one night that I did not play Imposter Syndrome, which is like the proper newest one, because there was a fan in the audience who like loved my like first EP that I like never play. And so I decided to swap it out with a song that she mentioned before at the merch table that she really wanted to hear that I didn't even know if I could play, but I was like, I have to try. So there was one show where I didn't play it. But in general, I play the songs and I kind of focus in on their stories a little bit before because I think these songs have a lot more to say that is like kind of coded, if that makes sense, rather than straight in your face about what they mean. Other than imposter syndrome, that's kind of obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to talk, about the messages and what you're trying to say with this EP. I know that in the press releases, it's kind of said that it's for those that are experiencing unavoidable self doubt in their 20s, which I think is very relatable for a lot of us. But can you just expand a little more about your message and what drew you to make this EP?
The four songs on the EP are probably the first time that I've felt like I've had a voice from the beginning to the end of the creation. If I didn't like a part of the master, like, and I said something, it was listened to, And I've always done everything independently, but because I'm shy and anxious, sometimes I would say things and they would kind of be disregarded because I didn't say them loud enough, you know? And so I think just the process of creating, just go looking back and the process of creating the music has almost been like a exercise in pushing back the imposter syndrome for me, which is why I thought it would be fun to name it the Imposter Syndrome EP. Um, but it also kind of spans across a handful of different feelings. Colorblind is about my first like real heartbreak, like the first girl that I really fell in love with and how it felt when it ended, which felt like the end of the world, and it totally wasn't. And then Rest Stop is about losing a friend, which I think isn't really talked about. Losing a friend, not in the sense of them passing away, but in the sense of them, you not being friends anymore and them going and living their complete life and knowing that they're existing totally separate from you after 7 years for me of that person being in my life every single day or however long it is for anyone else. Phantom Limb is about getting sober. And then Imposter Syndrome is about questioning every single thing in your life that's good because you don't think you deserve it. And I think that all of those pieces can kind of fit together into an EP about growing up a little bit in your early 20s. So that's kind of like why I grouped them together.
Well, it's a really great EP. I enjoyed listening to it, and I think a lot of people will, be able to take anything away from it, any of the songs. I agree that the messages are a little more hidden, and it feels like you can kind of just make out whatever you want from them. So I feel like making it, imposter syndrome, it just feels so relevant too with this whole pandemic spent time in quarantine because we all don't know what we're doing.
Yeah,
So how has the pandemic played a role in the creation of the album?
so Colorblind was done completely remotely with Jacob and I. So Jacob Leventhal, who I will say his name at any given point that I can. I love him. He is the most wonderful person. He is so talented, and he engineered and produced all the songs. Um, he was here, I think, and partially in Chicago, and I was in DC when we made Colorblind specifically. And we just went back and forth with tracks and vocals and everything. So that was like a totally like pandemic made from different places song. And then for the other three, we actually got to work together in person for like the actual vocals and the finishing touches of it, which was really cool. But I think like just having a song on there that was like completely made stereotypically in the pandemic is like kind of fun. um, and yeah, I mean, COVID is has been a completely mixed bag in so many different ways for like the way that we've experienced it. I think just anyone that's in the phase in their life where they're still figuring things out, and that can be at any age, but it really threw all of that through a loop. Because you could have thought that you knew it was happening, and then all of a sudden all that shut down. So I think like in a way, somehow managing to have all of these typical life experiences in a non-typical life situation is just like a call out to how life doesn't really stop. Like it keeps going no matter what. All the stuff around you is going to keep happening, even in a pandemic.
On that note, I mean, we're still continuing on, still trying to keep going. So,
Yep.
what is next for you? I know you have this EP about to drop, but like, do you have anything else that you're working on?
Always working on new music. Always. If I ever stop doing that, there's something wrong. But I guess just more music and then hopefully more shows. I mean, as shows get safer and as tours get safer, I'd love to be back on the road and playing again. There's a lot of ways to make them safer, but until COVID like pretty completely subsides, shows aren't safe for people who are disabled or have any kind of like alternative experience other than like being completely able-bodied and like healthy in a stereotypical way. And so I'm hoping that we get back to a place as soon as possible where every type of fan can enjoy music, and then I would be more than happy to continue playing then as well. So I'm hoping by the time that I tour again, it'll be accessible to like everyone who wants to come.
Absolutely. That's a great message to share. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me. Is there anything else that you have to say?
Thank you.
I want to. You don't have to say anything.
No, just thank you again for your time. I super appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like this video? Follow us for more.